Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I'm Jason Miller. Tonight on the Evan-Miller Report, the U.S. has confirmed the death of aid worker Kyla Mueller, the last American hostage known to be held by ISIS militants in Syria. We have the latest. Also tonight, we have a report tonight on NATO fighter squadrons currently in Italian and Polish regions protecting the Baltic states in case of further Russian aggression in the area. We have the latest reports from there. Syrian's President Bashar al-Assad says his government is receiving messages from the U.S.-led coalition battling Islamic State, but the U.S. is denying anything to do with sending these messages out. In U.S. news, Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel admits profound disagreement with President Obama. And in our continuing battle against global socialism tonight, the ACLU has sued for records on Border Patrol's roving agents. And some Alabama counties refuse gay marriages, prompting a lawsuit from gay people trying to get married in that state. We have all those stories and more, plus Corey Evans' lawsuits across America and the entertainment report. Tonight on the Evan-Miller Report for this Tuesday, February the 10th, 2015, starting right
now. Live from Southern California, this is the Evan-Miller Report. Jason Miller with news and politics, Corey Evans with business and entertainment. This is the Evan-Miller Report on SHR Media and Pundit Press Radio. Here now, Jason Miller.
I'm Jason Miller. We have breaking news to start off with the broadcast tonight. This just coming into the newsroom. NBC News' Brian Williams has been suspended from the NBC Nightly News for 6 months without pay. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, this has come from his previous comments and reporting on the situations in Iraq and on Hurricane Katrina. Stay with the Evan-Miller Report for the latest on this developing story. We'll bring you the latest on the story throughout the night. Once again, Brian Williams, the editor-in-chief and anchor of the NBC Nightly News, has now been suspended without pay for the next 6 months. Now on to other news tonight. The U.S. has confirmed the death of aid worker Kyla Mueller, the last known American hostage to be held by Islamic State militants in Syria. Her family said they were heartbroken to learn the news and released a letter written during her captivity. Paying tribute to her today, President Obama said she represents what is best about America. Last week, Islamic State said she died in a Jordanian airstrike without providing proof. Ms. Mueller, 26, was abducted while working in Aleppo in Syria back in 2013. Our hearts are breaking for our only daughter, but we will continue on in peace, dignity, and love for her, her family said in a statement. In a letter written in 2014, Ms. Mueller tries to reassure her family, saying that she had been treated with the utmost respect and kindness. I could only but write the letter a paragraph at a time. Just the thought of you all sends me into a fit of tears, she wrote. I know you would want me to remain strong. That is exactly what I am doing. End of quote. Ms. Mueller's death was determined after her family was contacted privately by her ISIS captors over the weekend, with U.S. intelligence then confirming the details of the message. She has been taken from us, but her legacy endures, inspiring all those who fight, each in their own way, for what is just and what is decent, said President Obama in a statement today. He continued saying, no matter how long it takes, the United States will find and bring justice to the terrorists who are responsible for Kayla's captivity and death. In an interview with BuzzFeed News, the president also rejected the suggestion that the U.S. could have done more to free Ms. Mueller. Mr. Obama said that he had launched a rescue operation back in 2014 to free Ms. Mueller and other hostages, but that it had missed them by a day or two. He also added that we had devoted enormous resources and always devote enormous resources to freeing captives or hostages anywhere in the world. There was a time when the Syrian base was home to 26,000 Soviet troops right on the frontier of the Iron Curtain. Now it is run by just 400 Lithuanian personnel who host NATO fighter squadrons, currently Italian and Polish. But the RAF have done a stint here recently too. Everybody is being kept on their toes by regular incursions and incidents involving Russian planes. And according to the ITV's Dan Rivers, the Lithuania NATO air base is being constantly busy by increased Russian airspace incursions. Dan Rivers has the report now from the Baltic states.
While the world watches events in Ukraine, NATO is watching the skies above the Baltic states, worried this could be the next target of Russian aggression. The Russian enclave of Kaliningrad is just 80 miles from where these jets are stationed, and these pilots are intercepting Russian planes several times a week.
NATO is providing these planes because Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania don't have their own. And this airborne police force is being called on more and more. Many are worried that after the Ukraine, the Baltic states may be next in Russian sights.
As we filmed at the base, these Italian Typhoons were scrambled to intercept a Russian aircraft. They arrived back without incident, having made their presence felt.
We usually intervene when Russian aircraft do not have flight plan, or they are not squawking, they are not communicating. They want just to test the air defense system over Lithuanian nations.
They pride themselves on rapid reaction here. This one of the regular drills to make sure air crews are able to scramble and be airborne in just a few minutes. Ironically, they're flying from a former Soviet airbase. NATO is concerned Russia might one day seek to come back as part of its wider territorial ambitions. In Ukraine, those ambitions are getting more deadly by the day. Terrified residents filming as rockets hit Ukraine's main military HQ in Kramatorsk. Scenes that will no doubt send a chill down the spine of NATO commanders. For President Putin, the message seems to be business as usual. Visiting the Egyptian president this week ahead of a summit in Minsk tomorrow to discuss Ukraine. But while NATO is clearly taking a tough line on defending the Baltic, the West's messaging on arming Ukraine is much more mixed, and some fear that lack of clarity will only embolden Russia to test these defences even further. Dan Rivers, ITV News, Lithuania.
Many thanks to Dan Rivers for his reporting out of the Baltic region tonight. And of course, stay with the Evan-Miller Report. We'll bring you the latest on the region, including those peace talks coming up in Minsk tomorrow over in the Ukrainian area tomorrow for further on the peace plans. Back to Syria now, where President Bashar al-Assad has said his government is receiving messages from the U.S.-led coalition battling the jihadist group ISIS. Mr. Assad told the BBC's Jeremy Bowen that there has been no direct cooperation since airstrikes began in Syria back in September of last year, but third parties, among them Iraq, were conveying information. Though the U.S. National Security Council has denied coordinating with the Syrian government, a spokesperson told the BBC that there had been no advance notification to the Syrians at a military level. Mr. Assad has also denied that Syrian government forces had been dropping barrel bombs indiscriminately on rebel-held areas, killing thousands of civilians. He dismissed the allegation as a childish story in a wide-ranging interview, as I stated, with the BBC's Middle East editor Jeremy Bowen, who's in Damascus. The Syrian president said, "We have bombs, missiles, and bullets. There are no barrel bombs. We don't have barrels." Our correspondent says that his denial is highly controversial, as the deaths of civilians in barrel bomb attacks are well documented. British Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond condemned the president's comments and said that the Syrian government had used the crude and indiscriminate weapons against its own people. He also added, Assad is deluded or lying when he says his military are not murdering hundreds of innocent civilians with the use of barrel bombs. And of course, we'll put the link to the story up on our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Evan-Miller Report, if you'd like to see that full interview with the BBC's Jeremy Bowen interviewing Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Meanwhile, foreign fighters are streaming into Syria and Iraq in unprecedented numbers to join the Islamic State or other extremist groups, including at least 3,400 from Western nations, among 20,000 from around the world, U.S. intelligence officials say in an updated estimate of a top terrorism concern. Intelligence agencies now believe that as many as 150 Americans have tried and some have succeeded in reaching the Syrian war zone, according to the officials who told the House Homeland Security Committee in testimony prepared for delivery on Wednesday. Some of those Americans were arrested en route. Some died in the area, and a small number are still fighting with extremists. The testimony and other data were obtained Tuesday by the AP. Nick Rasmussen, chief of the National Counterterrorism Center, said the foreign fighter travel to Syria is without precedent, far exceeding the rate of foreigners who went to wage jihad in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, and Yemen, or Somalia at any other point in the past 20 years. U.S. officials fear that some of the foreign fighters who come from some 90 countries will return undetected to their home countries in Europe or the U.S. to mount terrorist attacks. At least one of the men responsible for the attack on Santerial magazine in Paris, France, had spent time with Islamic extremists in Yemen. Meanwhile, the White House circulated a proposal Tuesday that would have Congress authorize further U.S. military to fight Islamic State terrorists over the next 3 years. A formal request for legislation is expected tomorrow. Also at the White House, President Obama praised Kayla Jean Mueller, the young American whose death was confirmed today as well, as we previously reported. Over in Nigeria, Boko Haram's Islamist extremists have abducted about 30 people, including 8 Cameroon girls, and killed 7 hostages in 2 bus hijackings in Cameroon and Nigeria, Cameroon residents and a Nigerian intelligence official said today. Boko Haram, who kidnapped nearly 300 schoolgirls in Nigeria last year in an incident that ignited international outrage, have taken 8 Cameroon hostage, said Shemita Abu, the principal of a school in the area. The girls range in age from 11 to 14 and come from the town of Kosa, he said. The bus attack took place Sunday about 11 miles from the Cameroon's border with Nigeria. 7 other hostages were slain and their bodies scattered near the border, said Amadou, whose brother was the bus driver and was among those killed. Also Sunday, across the border in Nigeria, the Islamic extremists held up a bus in Akbanta village of Bama district and made off with about 20 people, including women and children, according to a security officer who spoke on condition of anonymity because he is not authorized to give information to reporters. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and send over to Corey Evan. He has the rest of the day's other news in our news bulletin from Los Angeles tonight. Corey, take it away.
Jay, it's a good update. New CCTV footage has emerged capturing the moments before the ill-fated TransAsia plane crashed into the Keelung River in Taiwan last week. This from the UK Independent. The never-before-seen surveillance footage was taken from the top of a 21-story tower block. It shows the plane fall sharply just minutes after taking off from Taipei Songshan Airport in downtown Taipei. The plane is filmed narrowly avoiding buildings by just a matter of meters as it hurtles towards the river below. A shocked man can be seen running to the side of the building to watch the plane as it falls. Only 15 people survived the crash last week, with at least 40 people confirmed dead. 3 people are still reported missing, and divers are continuing to search the wreckage for survivors. A probe into what caused the crash is now being carried out. On Tuesday, the country's Aviation Safety Council announced that 3 air safety investigators from China had joined investigators from Taiwan, France, and Canada to help work out what it was that brought the plane down last week. The majority of TransAsia's fleet remains grounded as their pilots receive retraining and proficiency tests to ensure they are fit to fly the planes. Speaking of France, there was relief today for a young woman mistakenly handed to the wrong parents shortly after her birth, as a court ordered the private clinic responsible to pay out 400,000 euros each to her and the other girl involved in the accidental switch. This also from the UK Telegraph. Clinica Jourdan in Cannes in southern France and an insurance company had to pay out a total of 1.88 million euros to members of the 2 families, which also included 300 grand for each of 3 parents involved in the case and 60 grand for 3 brothers and sisters. A nurse's assistant had accidentally given baby Manon Serrano, who was in an incubator, to another mother after her birth in July 1994 and given the infant next to her to Sophie Serrano. Although both mothers immediately expressed doubt about the babies, pointing to their different hair lengths, they were sent home anyway. 10 years later, troubled by the fact his daughter bore no resemblance to him with her darker skin, Menon's father did a paternity test that revealed
he was not the father.
Sophie Serrano then discovered she was not Menon's mother either, prompting a probe to try to find the other family who had been handed their biological daughter. An investigation was launched and their biological child was located 18 miles away. Menon's mother expressed gratitude that the error had finally been recognized, saying, quote, "I've been cleared of everything. I don't need to feel responsible for anything anymore," unquote. Of course not. It's not your fault that you were handed the wrong baby. The other family involved in the case has chosen to remain anonymous. The suit, which was brought in 2010 by the two families, also targeted 2 doctors and the nurse's assistant who made the mistaken switch, but the court did not convict them. And it is my hope, ladies and gentlemen, that the two families will become best friends over this, and hopefully keep up appearances with one another. Maybe even go to shows together. Like our show coming up later this spring. Just saying. Back on domestic soil from Fox News, more than 2 feet of snow piled up in parts of New England by early Tuesday, breaking records set 37 years ago, as forecasters warned still more winter weather was on the way. The snowfall numbers in the area are, quote, staggering. Boston's Logan Airport measured 72 inches of snow in the last 2.5 weeks. In the last 2 days, the town of Norwell, which is outside of Boston, got buried in 30 inches. Schools to the north of Boston have closed until February 23rd, and forecasters warned that more snow was expected Thursday and again next weekend. The Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency said that potentially record low temperatures and wind chills are expected later in the week. Take that, environmentalists and your global warming ilk! Any rate, Governor Charlie Baker announced Tuesday that he will deploy 500 National Guardsmen to assist with the cleanup efforts. The region continues to clean up, but there is no place to move the latest snowfall. After a more than 24-hour shutdown, Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority announced Tuesday afternoon that subways, trolleys, and commuter rail will resume on Wednesday, but officials say commuters should expect fewer cars and less frequent service on most lines. The buildup of snow and ice on trolley tracks combined with aging equipment has stalled trains, delaying and angering commuters. A frustrated Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker called the situation unacceptable. Boston hospitals have set up sleep areas for workers, and police are offering rides to work for doctors and nurses. There have been reports of roofs collapsing in the Boston area due to the weight of the snow, including a music store where a $500,000 rhinestone-covered grand piano once owned by Liberace was spared after the store's roof gave way under the weight of snow. Well, that's a good thing. I'm sure Liberace's looking down on that and thinking, "Phew!" And as for where to put all that snow, I think I know a couple of reservoirs here in California. Unless Jerry Brown's deciding to dump more water into the ocean. Anyway, this one coming to us from the Washington Post now. Marilyn Jean Hartman boarded a plane in Minnesota and arrived in Florida on Sunday, she told authorities. There, at Jacksonville International Airport, she claimed to have hopped on a transportation van to an island resort. That's where the 63-year-old serial stowaway was arrested Monday, according to a Nassau County Sheriff's Office arrest report, because, as it turns out, Hartman didn't have a reservation at the Omni Amelia Island Plantation Resort, or her alleged plane ticket for that matter. Hartman checked into the resort using the name of another guest and was shown to a villa, according to the arrest report. The hotel realized its mistake when the real guest tried to check in. Hartman then disappeared, the report states. She was located the next day in a room that was under renovation and was held by security until authorities arrived. If Hartman's name sounds familiar, well, it better be. She's done this before. A lot. A Nassau County Sheriff's Office news release refers to Hartman as the infamous serial stowaway, for a reason. After 3 tries, she actually flew Southwest Airlines without a ticket. And, of course, she's been arrested at Phoenix Airport. This time she faces charges of fraud and impersonation, defrauding an innkeeper, and trespassing, according to the news release. Bond has been set at over $55,000, and she's due in court in early March. The arrest report says Hartman is homeless. And now we go from stowaways to the schoolyard, where I have the latest in our continuing battle against global socialism. This coming to us out of WFTV in Florida. A history book used in school districts across the state is sparking controversy in Seminole County. A parent called a local news agency after finding out his son was learning too much about the Islamic religion in a public classroom. Ron Wagner read from part of his son's world history book, quote, "There is no God but God. Muhammad is the messenger of God." Wagner's not reading the 5 pillars of Islam from the Quran, but rather his son's 10th grade world history book from Lyman High School. Wagner, who is not religious, said he had no idea the public school was teaching so extensively about religion until he spotted a text on his son's phone from a teacher reminding him to complete a prayer rug assignment and study an Islam packet. Inside of the book is a chapter dedicated to the rise of Islam, including prayers and scriptures from the Quran. What's more disturbing for Wagner is that the first 100 pages discussing Judaism and Christianity are missing. The district blames a manufacturer defect in 68 books that are only a year old. Right, I think we know exactly what they did with those pages, so, any rate, according to Wagner, Dr. Michael Blazewicz, who oversees the high school curriculum, said, quote, "The pillars of Islam are benchmarks in the state curriculum," unquote. Wait a minute. Benchmarks in the state curriculum? This sounds like the common crud to me. And I'm sure Jason, in just a few moments, will have a lot to say about this. Oh yeah. Wagner's concerns prompted a district investigation that found the teacher never tried to indoctrinate or convert students. I don't buy that. Some other students interviewed by administrators said they were not required to recite the prayer aloud. They did discuss a video played during class about the religion, but Blazewicz got frustrated and stormed out when local news asked whether the district is considering changes to the curriculum. Before he walked out, he further justified the curriculum, saying students learn specific Judaism doctrine, the Bible and its scriptures, in earlier school years. Federal law allows schools to teach about religion, because it's part of history, but public schools may not teach religion. Local news reporters were told the district will reconsider this book when the contract is up in 3 years. Some districts in South Florida have requested the publisher rewrite portions because of the controversy. And they better, because we here at the Evan-Miller Report know exactly what goes into all of that curriculum, and I'm sure that next time we have Orleen Kurla on our show, she's definitely going to sound off about this one, and I can't wait. Orleen, I would like to personally extend you an invite to our Friday show, either this week or next week. Yes, I'm going to play that card, Jay. Send her the message. So, when will public school superintendents learn to draw the line? Or draw a line in general? How many police chases will it take to dissuade would-be Grand Theft Auto imitators? And why is satellite home internet so expensive and nasty? Stay tuned for developments in our continuing battle against global socialism. And now, sound off from Jason coming in 3, 2, 1. Go, Jay.
Thank you very much, Corey. Corey, with tonight's Global Socialism tonight here on the program. Yeah, we have a couple stories to sound off on tonight in our continuing battle against global socialism. And we start off tonight over with the ACLU suing Border Patrol's parent agency today for records on its activities away from the nation's border with Mexico. The federal lawsuit seeks records on the agency's so-called roving patrols in the San Diego and El Sorrento sectors in Southern California. The plaintiffs say agents work a considerable distance from the border with Mexico and have reportedly stopped farm workers and residents for questioning in Fallbrook, about 70 miles north of Mexico, and Laguna Beach, nearly 90 miles north. The complaint is the latest to question the Border Patrol's activities away from the border, whether at highway checkpoints or on roving patrols. According to the ACLU, federal law allows Border Patrol to make warrantless stops and seizures within a reasonable distance of the border. Regulations have defined that distance as 100 miles from land and sea borders, which encompasses about 2/3 of the nation's population and 9 of the country's 10 largest cities. The lawsuit names the Department of Homeland Security and its Customs and Border Patrol Protection Unit, which includes the Border Patrol. It said the agencies haven't produced records requested under the Freedom of Information Act back in July of last year. CBP had no immediate comment on the case. Same-sex marriage spread further across Alabama on Tuesday as more courthouses issued licenses to gays and lesbians. Yet some counties still defied a federal judge's order, so couples took their fight back to court. The dispute and confusion head toward a showdown in federal court set for Thursday in Mobile, Alabama, where gay couples have waited for 2 days in a courthouse after officials quit issuing marriages license altogether, even for heterosexual couples, rather than sell them to same-sex couples. Jim Strausser and his partner, John Humphrey, sat outside the shuttered marriage license window at the Mobile County Courthouse. They said, Strausser was quoted as saying, "Come on, you've got a federal court order. Open those windows." To no avail. Alabama's Chief Justice Roy Moore threw the state into somewhat say is disarray when at the 11th hour he ordered probate judges not to allow gay marriages. He gave the order even though a federal judge ruled the state's ban was unconstitutional and the U.S. Supreme Court allowed the marriages to begin Monday. Moore's effort brought immediate comparisons to Alabama's Governor George Wallace's 1960 vow of segregation, now segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Moore had made a national name for himself when he disobeyed a federal court order to remove a Ten Commandments monument from the state courthouse back in 2003. He was then forced from the bench back then, but re-elected to the state Supreme Court back in 2012. Despite Moore's order, hundreds of jubilant couples have received marriage licenses in large cities, including Montgomery, Huntsville, and Birmingham, making Alabama the 37th state where gays have legally wed. At least 19 of the state's 67 counties had issued wedding licenses to same-sex couples, or said Tuesday they would do so, compared to just 7 on Monday. The exact number of counties refusing to sell licenses wasn't immediately clear. A Missouri inmate has lost an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court today, just hours before he was scheduled to be executed, arguing unsuccessfully that the lethal drug could cause a painful death. Well, it's the death penalty. It wasn't supposed to be painless. What an idiot. Walter Timothy Story is scheduled to die at 12:01 a.m. Wednesday for killing a woman who was his neighbor 25 years ago in the St. Louis suburb of St. Charles. After a Missouri record 10 executions in 2014 would be the state's first this year. The nation's highest court turned down Story's application for a stay of execution, an application submitted to Justice Samuel Alito. 4 Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Sonia Sotomayor, Stephen Breyer, and Alina Kagan would have granted the stay. A clemency request is pending with Missouri Governor Jay Nixon. Missouri obtains its execution drug, propofol, from an unnamed compounding pharmacy, and prison officials refuse to disclose details about how or if it is tested. Story's attorney argues that the secrecy makes it impossible to know if what they say is barbaric, will quickly work, or cause an unconstitutionally painfully death, in his opinion. After all, compounding is not necessarily a matter of changing a drug's flavor, but rather it's a matter of combining different ingredients in new untested way, said Story's attorney, Jennifer Hardin. She cited an anthologist who said that the subpotent petrobitol could severely disable the prisoner without killing him, potentially leaving him alive but permanently brain damaged. My goodness, what these lawyers will do to these people who did wrong. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of what these lawyers do with these last-minute appeals, I call social justice. All right, folks, on that note, we're going to go ahead and take a short break here on the program. But when we come back on tonight's Evan-Miller Report, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that there is profound disagreement with his U.S. counterpart, President Obama. Also tonight, Republicans hit another impasse on security and with regards to the immigration bill. And we'll have the latest in business tonight, where Home Depot is offering more jobs to spring workers looking for work. All those stories and more on the Evan-Miller Report when we return after these messages. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You're listening to the Evan-Miller Report on SHR Media and Pundit Press Radio.
Is radio.
Pack news. Pack news.
Radio.
Pack news. Pack news.
Radio.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. when I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberty, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or follow my blog. Now, back to the...
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, our discoveries have helped drive the childhood cancer survival rate from 20% to 80%. And we share our research all across America.
I'm 80% sure I'll spoil my kids. I'm 80% sure I'll break boys' hearts. I'm 80% sure we're chick magnets.
80%? I'll take those odds.
Give thanks for the healthy kids in your life and give to those who are not. Go to stjude.org or shop wherever you see the St. Jude logo.
Let's get back to the Evan-Miller Report on SHR Media and Pundit Press Radio.
Welcome back to the Evan-Miller Report. I'm Jason Miller. Glad you're with us today. Corey Evan is on assignment, but has recorded a good portion of his segments for tonight. And we're going to go ahead and go to him now. And he has tonight's business news and the closing bell. Corey?
Jay, it's already looking to be a really crazy week on the stock market. The Dow's up 139 points right now at 17,868. The Nasdaq up 61 at 4787, and the S&P 500 gained 21 points to close at 2068. From Reuters, the European Union is aiming to clinch an interim debt deal with Greece at a meeting of Eurozone finance ministers on Monday, with low expectations for a breakthrough at meetings of ministers and EU leaders this week. Eurozone finance ministers, collectively known as the Eurogroup, meet on Wednesday and next Monday, and EU leaders at a summit, or European Council, this Thursday. An EU official later said the target now was to clinch an interim deal by Monday's scheduled meeting of the Eurogroup in Brussels. Greece is seeking a new debt agreement with the Eurozone that will allow it to shake off much of the austerity imposed since 2010 by international leaders. The existing package expires at the end of February.
Spring cleaning. Our disinfecting prowess is second to none.
Yes, Jay, it's all about spring cleaning on the this next story, Home Depot is gearing up for its busiest season with plans to hire more than 80,000 people. Because with spring cleaning comes, of course, some home remodeling. The largest U.S. home improvement retailer said on Tuesday it plans to add both permanent part-time and seasonal positions at its stores and distribution centers as it preps for spring, when consumers start work on lawns and other projects as the weather warms. The number of seasonal hires has been roughly the same for several years, spokesman Stephen Holmes said. The positions range from sales associates and cashiers to online fulfillment and operations. In New York, for instance, the company, with a total employee count of 365,000, is hiring about 2,200 people for 20 stores. In San Fran, it's adding 1,500 at 33 stores. Its smaller rival Lowe's said in January that it's hiring about 30,000 people this spring, with seasonal employees working an estimated 20 or more hours a week. As Home Depot has received more than 1 million applications in the past, the company, for the first time, is giving tips to prospective hires on how to nail the job interview. The home improvement segment has outpaced the retail industry in growth in recent years amid a rebound in the housing market. The number of hires may raise investor hopes that the company's sales plan is on track, analysts have said. Home Depot shares rose 1.2% to be one of the biggest Dow gainers today. They've risen 43% in the past year, making the stock the second best Dow performer in that time frame. Not to endorse them or anything, but I guess that really is the power of the Home Depot now, isn't it? I don't know, I usually shop Lowe's myself, but either way it's looking good, at least at first glance. And finally, from the AP, Coca-Cola reported a profit that topped Wall Street expectations today as it stepped up marketing and fetched higher prices for sodas in North America. The better-than-expected results helped send up the company's shares, even though quarterly profit was dragged down 55% by unfavorable currency rates overseas and one-time charges related to cost-cutting. The world's biggest beverage maker has been struggling to boost global sales volume and says it expects 2015 to be another challenging year. To make up for weak volume gains at home, the company has been using a variety of tactics, including a focus on mini cans and smaller bottles that are positioned as premium offerings and help push up revenue. For the quarter, Coca-Cola's overall soda volume in North America was flat, while volume for non-carbonated drinks rose 3%. Its price mix for the region, which factors in the prices and sizes of its drinks, rose 4%. Coca-Cola is also significantly increasing marketing, including a double-digit percentage boost in media spending. During a conference call, CEO Muhtar Kent said 2015 would be a transitional year as the company continues to face challenges and undergoes dramatic cost-cutting to improve results. To keep pace with changing tastes, Coca-Cola has diversified and owns an array of brands including Honest Tea and Zico coconut water that better fit with prevailing health trends. It also recently began the national rollout of Fairlife, a pricier milk that promises more protein and less sugar. I think I will personally stick with regular milk for the time being, won't you, Jay?
Yeah, I tend to drink a bit of Altadena milk now and then. That's just the milk I happen to drink. Not to say I'm endorsing Altadena, just as you said, you aren't endorsing Home Depot. More, I'm like a Lowe's guy anyway. As I said, I'm not endorsing them. That's just where I prefer to shop, ladies and gentlemen. Corey Evan with the business news. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to some D.C. news tonight. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu admitted Tuesday he has a profound disagreement with President Obama over efforts by the U.S. and world powers to resolve the Iranian nuclear issue. However, he said he is still trying to minimize the impact of the dispute on his country's relations with the U.S. He said, quote, "We have today a profound disagreement with the United States administration and the rest of the P5+1 countries over the offer that has been made to Iran." Netanyahu's office quoted him as saying, Iran, Britain, China, France, Russia, and the United States, along with Germany, have been seeking a comprehensive accord that would prevent Tehran from developing a nuclear bomb in return for an easing of economic sanctions. In his statement, Netanyahu said what the P5+1 was offering in the negotiations would enable Iran to threaten Israel's survival. He said, quote, "This is a regime, Iran, that is openly committed to Israel's destruction. It will be able under this deal to break out to a nuclear weapon in a short time and within a few years to have industrial capability to produce many nuclear bombs for the goal of our destruction." President Obama has refused to meet Netanyahu during his trip to Washington next month, saying diplomatic protocol forbade him from doing so, as the Israeli leader is fighting for re-election on March the 17th. Yet, Mr. President, you send your 2012 campaign team over to help Netanyahu's opponent. call that a breach of protocol. There's such a double standard with this administration, isn't there, ladies and gentlemen? But back to the story. This is not a personal disagreement between President Obama and me. I deeply appreciate all that he has done for Israel in many fields, said Netanyahu. Equally, I know that the President appreciates my responsibility, my foremost responsibility to protect and defend the security of Israel. I am going to the United States not because I seek a confrontation with the President, but because I must fulfill my obligation to speak up on a matter that affects the very survival of my country. And you know what? President Netanyahu, thank you for taking responsibility for your country of Israel, because we have a president called President Obama who takes no responsibility whatsoever. You today are our hero of the day. If not, he could be the hero of the year, unless someone better comes up there. If anyone disagrees with me, you can email me, jmiller@shrmedia.com, if you have a better candidate than President Netanyahu of Israel. All right, moving on to the rest of the day's D.C. news. U.S. congressional Republicans hit another impasse today over a Homeland Security funding bill that would block President Obama's immigration actions, with Senate leaders suggesting the House of Representatives try another approach. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and BS artists said Republicans could not get around the Senate Democratic opposition to the House-passed legislation, which failed to get the 60 votes needed to clear procedural hurdles in 3 separate votes last week. I think it is clear we can't go forward in the Senate, the BS artist from Kentucky told reporters, so the next move obviously is up to the House. Congress needs to act by a February 27th deadline to renew the spending authority for the Department of Homeland Security, a massive agency that spearheads domestic counterterrorism efforts and secures U.S. borders, airports, and coastal waters. The House version of the spending bill also would defund Obama's executive orders in 2012 and 2014, lifting the threat of deportation for millions of undocumented immigrants, or as we like to call them here, as they are here at the Evan-Miller Report, illegal immigrants. The president has threatened to veto the House-passed measure, and Democrats are insisting on a clean funding bill with no immigration restrictions. Well, of course you are. And that concludes tonight's D.C. news. We're going to go ahead and send it over to Corey now. He has tonight's lawsuits across America. Corey, take it away.
I thank you as always, Jay. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated and come to order. Lawsuits across America is the main session. First item on the docket from skiff.com. Orbits Worldwide and Ski Plagued, a New York-based startup showing hidden city itineraries, settled their lawsuit. However, United Airlines, which filed the lawsuit jointly with Orbitz against Ski Plagued, has not come to terms with Ski Plagued. There are no talks underway between United and Ski Plagued. Orbitz and United sued Ski Plagued in November for allegedly interfering with airline travel agency contracts by showing unauthorized itineraries and for trademark infringement. Ski Plagued, founded by a young entrepreneur, Akhtarer Zaman, enables flyers to book cheaper flights by deplaning at a stopover instead of continuing on to the ticketed destination, and his crowdsourced defense fund has so far raised more than $75,000 on GoFundMe. Under the terms of the settlement, Ski Plagued agreed not to redirect traffic to Orbitz or other Orbitz Worldwide sites, and not to use Orbitz trademarks including logos, images, and copyrighted materials. Neither party admitted any wrongdoing. While Ski Plagued stopped linking to Orbit sites for users who wanted to book a hidden city itinerary, Ski Plagued is now sometimes linking to CheapOair for bookings. It's doubtful Ski Plagued has authorization to link to CheapOair.com, which couldn't immediately be reached for comment. United, meanwhile, argues that Ski Plagued's hidden city practices could lead to the airline permanently losing customers when flights erroneously show they are full, but actually have seats available that could be sold because passengers got off the flight at a city that is supposed to be a layover. Next up, from Backin.com, a Utah woman who worked in the North Dakota oil fields was stripped of her job, paid less than her male counterparts, and threatened because she's a woman, according to a lawsuit filed Monday in federal district court.
Attitude with a capital B.
Minneapolis-based Halunin Law filed the lawsuit on behalf of Cindy Marcello of Ogden, Utah, who worked for C&J Energy Services until she left in October. Clayton Halunin, a managing partner at the law firm, said he believes Marcello is not alone and that many more women will come forward with stories of discrimination in the oil patch. A representative from C&J Energy Services said Monday that the company declined to comment on the matter. In her lawsuit, Marcello says that she started working for the Texas-based oil company in Williston as a pump operator in October of 2012, but was later pulled and switched to a desk job. She lost her field job, she says, after an official from company client Kodiak Oil and Gas told her boss that he didn't like women working in the field. Marcello says she pleaded to get her old job back, which is on track to pay about $120,000 annually, but that her manager told her it was too dangerous and too cold for her in the field. If this is true, whoever you are, manager, she knows when she's too cold. Thank you for telling her that. And Jay, you might want to get Dexter and Katie in the room. His dogs. A family in Seattle may have to pay more than $500,000 because their neighbors sued them over their barking dog and won. In the sprawling 36-page complaint obtained by ABC affiliate KOMO-TV, Norton's neighbor Woodrow Thompson claimed Denise Norton's dog, named Copper, is known for raucously, wildly bellowing, howling, and explosively barking. The lawsuit called the dog an outrage with intentional infliction of emotional distress and claimed the dog's barking caused profound emotional distress.
You know how Judge Judy feels about emotional distress, but at any rate.
The suit claims the dog's barks and howls were as loud as 128 decibels through double-pane windows. Research from Purdue University says that would make Copper louder than a chainsaw and a clap of thunder. The dog would also almost be nearly as loud as the takeoff of a military jet. Copper's barking may cost his family more than $500,000 after the neighbors sued for emotional distress. Now Norton is working to fight the judgment and get the case dismissed. A court date is pending. So until she's able to fight this judgment and get it dismissed, Katie, Dexter, you may want to learn to be a little bit more quiet around the neighbors, okay? Okay. Sorry to put them on the spot, Jay, but just thought they should have this information, just in case. And on that note, it's time to declare today's lawsuits across America case dismissed.
Corey Evan with tonight's lawsuits across America. And you know what? I'll use another Judge Judy euphemism. That's baloney! It doesn't even make any sense! That's what I say to that lawsuit. My goodness. Emotional distress over dog barking. The people don't like the barking dogs. They can move somewhere else. There's plenty of places in America to move. There's 50 states. Good grief. All right, folks, got some breaking news here in the newsroom that we're following here at this time. All right, you heard it at the top of the show. Brian Williams has been suspended as managing editor and anchor of the NBC Nightly News for 6 months without pay. According to NBC News President Deborah Turnus, she sent out a memo with the news today. Filling in for Brian Williams, who will be suspended, will be Lester Holt. He will substitute for Williams as NBC Nightly News' anchor until that suspension and further action is taken by the network. More breaking news that we're following here. Local sports reporter out of San Diego, Kyle Kraska, sports director of KFMB TV, has been seriously wounded today in a shooting outside his Scripps Ranch home, according to police and his employer, KFMB TV. The gunfire in the 1200 block of Avocado Court was reported shortly after 3 p.m., according to the San Diego Police Department Public Affairs Officer Matt Tortellini. A neighbor told San Diego police that someone shot the rear window out of Kraska's silver Mercedes-Benz, firing as many as 10 shots, then fled in an older white minivan. Medics took Kraska to Scripps Memorial Hospital in La Jolla. A police officer who rode an ambulance with him reported that Kraska was conscious and alert while being transported. Kraska has been with the station since 1999. The Emmy Award-winning broadcaster spent 4 years as a morning and noon co-anchor before moving into the sports department 12 years ago. Kraska has also been known in the 1990s after briefly anchoring for KCBS TV and worked on the show That Hard Copy. He has been a fixture at Channel 8, as I state, since 1999. He's also well known for his big personality and his years of work covering the San Diego Chargers. A motive for the shooting has not yet been determined, and we'll give you an update on any of that late-breaking news coming out of San Diego and, of course, from NBC News regarding Brian Williams if we get any more in the newsroom tonight. All right, folks, time to send it over to Corey Evan now. He has the rest of tonight's entertainment report. Corey?
I thank you, Jay, and Judge Judy is going to do someone's high school graduation some justice in my entertainment news. Judge Judy, according to CBS Los Angeles, has launched a contest to determine which high school will be selected to receive a visit from Judith Scheindlin, the presiding judge from the syndicated TV show. The winner of the Ultimate High School Graduation with America's Judge will also have Judge Judy as their 2015 commencement speaker. To enter the contest, the courtroom series asks that students write about what makes their school stand out. The entry is limited to 250 words or less. Judge Judy says her message to young people is simple. Life is a journey, and you have to be the hero of your own story. Well said, Your Honor. And for more information on this, I have posted the link on the Facebook page, facebook.com/The Evan-Miller Report. Better Call Saul had a record-breaking debut on Sunday, followed by a second episode on Monday. So far, according to the Huffington Post, we've seen what Saul, aka Jimmy McGill, was up to in Albuquerque around 2002, from hustling as a for-hire defense attorney to wooing clients at a local diner. But besides Saul, we also got to see Jonathan Banks reprising Michael Ehrmantraut and a new main character, Michael McKean's Chuck Thurber. HuffPost Entertainment sat down with two of the actors to find out if we'll eventually see Mike meet Gus Fring in the Breaking Bad spin-off series, and what's up with Chuck's mysterious illness. And if you want to check out the interview, I've also posted that up on the Facebook page as well. There's a lot to look at on the Facebook page after this entertainment report. Yes, sirree. And, here's another surprise. According to the Rolling Stone, Spider-Man will undergo another big screen makeover as part of his return to the Marvel Universe, thanks to a new deal between the comics giant and Sony Pictures, which owns the film rights to the character, according to Variety. A new movie is slated for release on July 28, 2017. The two studios will cast a new Spider-Man, Peter Parker, for the reboot, though no decisions have been made yet. Over the course of Sony's 5 Spider-Man films since 2002, the hero was played by Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. While Sony will distribute and retain financial and creative control over the new Spider-Man pictures, the move will allow the character to join Marvel's ever-expanding film universe. With Marvel set to bring their mid-2000s Civil War comics storyline to the movies next year, it's likely that the new Spider-Man will make his first appearance in Captain America Civil War, slated to open May 6th of next year. Why do they keep thinking that they have to reinvent Spider-Man? I mean, he's my go-to guy when I don't want to battle between my fiancé and her father, who are on opposite ends of the Batman-Superman debate. While I lean towards Batman, I sometimes like to joke,
Spider-Man.
But now, Sony, thanks a lot for making that less likely that I'll go to him. Even though it would be cool to have his web-slinging capabilities. Never mind. On tomorrow's entertainment report, I'm going to be doing a movie review about the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water. Basically, I want to see if it's any good, so I'm off to the movies. And that's it for your entertainment report for today. I certainly hope to entertain you again tomorrow. Till then, I'm Corey Evans saying goodnight, Jay.
And good night to you, Corey. Good luck at the movies. And ladies and gentlemen, I say this all the time, SpongeBob SquarePants, not especially my cup of tea. I have a feeling Corey Evans going to see the movie, see if it's a good family film for the kids to see. And we're looking forward to his movie review of that film tomorrow on the program. And ladies and gentlemen, since we have a couple minutes left, love to thank Dan Butcher over at Pundit Press for inviting me on the Southern Sense program today. He was filling in for Annie Ubilis today on the program, and we had a wonderful discussion about the state of media affairs, current and future state of media affairs in the United States. I enjoyed the 2-hour conversation with the many guests, including Scott Osborne, Tammy Bruce, and so many more on that program. Had a great time on that program today. Hopefully we can do that more in the future, and maybe we can do it on our program, the Evan-Miller Report, in a future report on the program. So many thanks to Dan Butcher and all the guests over there for making me feel so welcome. If you missed any of that show today, it's available on our Spreaker page, on our SHR Spreaker page, which you can go get access to via shrmedia.com. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, we thank you for listening to the Evan-Miller Report for today. For Corey Evan, I'm Jason Miller saying so long from San Diego. We wish you a great night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Coming up next, The Exceptional Conservative Show. with Ken McClinton. Good night, everybody.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.